Hello everyone, and thanks for listening today. This is the RX Daily Dose. Today's episode is being recorded for Monday, April 6th, and I'm your host, Ian Parnagoni. We update this podcast every week for healthcare providers, medical professionals, and anyone who has an interest in drug updates. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe on all your favorite podcast platforms and social media, including iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, and Instagram. All links can be found in the show notes below. This week we have updates for you from the FDA for approval of Sevenfact, a new combination treatment for extensive stage small cell lung cancer, and new indications for Taltz and Eucrisa. We'll also be giving our usual update on the coronavirus epidemic and flu season to date, including the approval of emergency use authorization for hydroxychloroquine and chloroquine. The FDA this week approved a new recombinant coagulation factor 7A, which is going by brand name Sevenfact, for the treatment of and control of bleeding episodes occurring in adults and adolescents 12 years of age and older with hemophilia A or B with inhibitors. Hemophilia A or B are congenital bleeding disorders caused by a dysfunction or deficiency of coagulation factor 8 or 9, respectively. People with hemophilia may bleed for a longer time than others after injury or surgery. They may also have spontaneous bleeding in muscles, joints, and organs, which may be life-threatening. Individuals with inhibitors may not respond to factor replacement therapy. According to the CDC, there are an estimated 20,000 people living with hemophilia in the United States. Bleeding episodes in these individuals are managed by either on-demand treatment or prophylaxis using products containing factor 8 or 9. However, when inhibitors to factor 8 or 9 develop in these individuals, treatment of bleeding episodes with factor 8 or 9 products may no longer be effective. In these situations, the administration of products such as Sevenfact, which bypass the factor 8 and 9 reactions, promotes clot formation and controls bleeding. The active ingredient of Sevenfact is a recombinant analog of human factor 7, which is expressed in the mammary gland of genetically engineered rabbits and secreted into the rabbit's milk. During purification and processing of the milk, factor 7 is converted into activated factor 7. The safety and efficacy of Sevenfact were determined using data from a clinical study that evaluated 27 patients with hemophilia A or B with inhibitors, which included treatment of 465 mild or moderate and 3 severe bleeding episodes. The study assessed the efficacy of a treatment 12 hours after the initial dose was given. The proportion of mild or moderate bleeding episodes treated successfully was approximately 86%. The study also included 3 severe bleeding episodes that were treated successfully with the higher dose of Sevenfact. The study also included 3 severe bleeding episodes that were treated successfully with the higher dose of Sevenfact. The most common side effects of Sevenfact were headache, dizziness, infusion site discomfort, infusion-related reactions, infusion site hematoma, and fever. Sevenfact is contraindicated in patients with known allergy or hypersensitivity to rabbits or rabbit proteins. Patients with hemophilia A or B with inhibitors who have other risk factors for blood clots may be at increased risk for serious arterial and venous thrombotic events. Hypersensitivity reactions, including anaphylaxis, are possible. Should symptoms of a thrombotic event or hypersensitivity reaction occur, patients should discontinue Sevenfact and seek appropriate medical intervention. The FDA this week also approved a new indication for durvalumab, which goes by brand name Imfinzi, that's in combination with standard chemotherapy as an initial treatment of people with extensive stage small cell lung cancer. This approval was based on findings from the Caspian Phase 3 trial, where combination was found to be better than standard chemo alone at extending the lives of newly diagnosed patients with extensive stage or widely spread small cell lung cancer. Imfinzi is an immune checkpoint inhibitor designed to harness the immune response by blocking PD-L1, a protein involved in mechanisms used by cancer cells to evade immune system attack. The ongoing Caspian trial is investigating the benefits of Imfinzi plus standard first-line chemotherapy to treat newly diagnosed small cell lung cancer patients whose chemotherapy has spread in the lungs or to other parts of the body. It is being conducted in more than 200 centers in 23 countries, including the US, Europe, South America, Asia, and the Middle East. Caspian enrolled 805 patients who were randomly assigned to either standard chemotherapy alone, that's etoposide plus cisplatin or carboplatin, or to a combination of Imfinzi and standard chemotherapy. Results revealed that Imfinzi extended median overall survival from 10.3 to 13 months, corresponding to a 27% reduction in the risk of death. At 18 months, 34% of Imfinzi treated patients were alive, as were 25% of those in the control group. Imfinzi also increased the percentage of patients responding to treatment, as well as those showing a durable response at 1 year. The safety of the Imfinzi combination was consistent with previous studies. Severe and life-threatening adverse events as well as treatment discontinuations were similar in both groups. The FDA this week also added a new age group for ixekizumab, which goes by brand name Taltz, now approved for the treatment of pediatric patients aged 6 and older with moderate to severe plaque psoriasis who are candidates for systemic therapy or phototherapy. Psoriasis affects nearly 8 million people in the United States. Many people living with psoriasis develop symptoms during childhood. Taltz was first approved by the FDA in March of 2016 for the treatment of moderate to severe plaque psoriasis in adult patients who are candidates for systemic therapy or phototherapy. The FDA also approved Taltz for the treatment of adults with active psoriatic arthritis in December of 2016 and for the treatment of adults with active ankylosing spondylitis in August of 2019. The safety and efficacy of Taltz in patients aged 6 to under 18 was demonstrated in a randomized double-blind placebo-controlled phase 3 study that included 171 patients with moderate to severe plaque psoriasis. The primary endpoints of the study were the number of patients achieving a 75% improvement from baseline on their psoriasis scores and a clinical assessment of clear or almost clear skin at week 12. Patients were randomized to receive Taltz or placebo. At 12 weeks, the proportion of patients achieving the primary endpoints was superior to placebo. Overall, the safety profile observed in pediatric patients with plaque psoriasis treated with Taltz every 4 weeks is consistent with the safety profile in adult patients with plaque psoriasis, with the exception of the frequencies of conjunctivitis, influenza, and urticaria. Taltz should not be used in patients with previous serious hypersensitivity such as anaphylaxis to ixekizumab or to any other of its components. Taltz may increase the risk of infection, and other warnings and precautions for Taltz include pre-treatment evaluation of tuberculosis, hypersensitivity, inflammatory bowel disease, and immunizations. The FDA also approved the new pediatric indication for crisaborole ointment, which goes by brand name Eucrisa, for the treatment of mild to moderate atopic dermatitis, an inflammatory skin disease that impacts a large number of pre-adolescent children. Pfizer announced this week that the FDA approved the supplemental new drug application for Eucrisa that allows the use of the medication on children ages 3 months to 24 months old. The ointment had previously been approved for patients ages 2 and above in 2016. Pfizer said the approval makes Eucrisa, a topical phosphodiesterase inhibitor, the first and only steroid-free topical prescription medication for mild to moderate atopic dermatitis patients as young as 3 months old. Atopic dermatitis is a chronic skin disease categorized by inflammation of the skin and skin barrier defects that affect nearly 18 million people and approximately 11% of children in the U.S. One of the most common forms of atopic dermatitis, early onset atopic dermatitis, typically begins within the first 2 years of life. Nearly half, about 45% of all atopic dermatitis cases, begin within the first 6 months of life, and about 60% within the first year. Despite the fact that atopic dermatitis typically begins in infancy, there have been few approved treatment options for this patient population. Approval for the expanded indication of Eucrisa was supported by data from a Phase 4 open-label clinical study designed to assess the safety of Eucrisa in infants aged 3 months to less than 24 months, with mild to moderate atopic dermatitis with effectiveness as an exploratory endpoint. In this study, all the patients had mild to moderate atopic dermatitis involving at least 5% treatable body surface area. In the study, Eucrisa was well tolerated and demonstrated effectiveness in patients with no new safety signals identified. And an update for you on influenza and coronavirus. For influenza this year, the CDC now estimates that in the US so far this season, there have been at least 39 million flu illnesses, 400,000 hospitalizations, and 24,000 deaths from the flu. 162 deaths have been reported in children. I put a link to the CDC Weekly Influenza Tracker where you can get more detailed updates on the virus. For the coronavirus, and these numbers are as of Sunday, April 5th, the coronavirus death toll rose to 67,253. That doubled since last week. And the number of confirmed infections rose to 1,236,842 worldwide. Again, double from last week. The United States is now considered the epicenter of the virus, with 321,615 cases. If you remember last week, there were 139,217. The week before that, there were 32,356. And the week before that, there were 3,083 confirmed cases. As we continue to increase testing, and as the virus continues to spread, we will continue to see these numbers rise. One new item from the FDA that happened this week in regards to coronavirus, the FDA issued an emergency use authorization to allow hydroxychloroquine sulfate and chloroquine phosphate products that have been donated to the Strategic National Stockpile to be distributed and used for certain hospitalized patients with COVID-19. Both drugs will be distributed from the Strategic National Stockpile to states for doctors to prescribe to adolescent and adult patients hospitalized with COVID-19 as appropriate when a clinical trial is not available or feasible. The emergency use authorization requires that fact sheets that provide important information about using chloroquine phosphate and hydroxychloroquine sulfate in treating COVID-19 be made available to healthcare providers and patients, including the known risks and drug interactions. The Strategic National Stockpile will work with FEMA to ship donated doses to states. We'll make sure to keep you updated every week as things continue to evolve with the spread of the coronavirus. And that's all I have for this week. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. I'll include all links in the show notes below, so please go back and check those out too. Please connect with me on any of your social media platforms and give me feedback on what you heard today. I'd love to know what you thought about the episode. And as always, feel free to like, share, and subscribe wherever you listen to your podcasts. And thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day.